Hey, good people. Welcome back to the WPMRR WordPress podcast. I'm Joe.
I'm Hermione.
And you're listening to the WordPress Business Podcast. We've got Hermione Granger on the pod this week. What's going on, Hermione?
Well, it's been a magical week.
Yes, love that. Cool. Hermione, our second Harry Potter character selection on the podcast. We had Rich Tabor, Rich Tabor, who does co-blocks and is now part of the GoDaddy team, but he chose Harry Potter. So thanks for being our second Harry Potter character. Is Harry Potter a big series in your life?
Oh, huge. Huge. My favorite thing ever.
Nice. Were you the person who had the books read by the time it had been 48 hours after the book had come out? You were like, oh, I finished that already.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even need to sleep or eat or shower. I just read the books. But I have a whole room in my basement that has murals all the way around that are Harry Potter.
Oh, very nice. Cool. Okay, big Harry Potter fan. Hermione on the pod this week, also known as Amy Masson. Amy, thanks for hopping on. So let's hear a little bit about kind of your background in WordPress. What are the things that you're up to, WordPress?
Well, I have a small agency that I run with my sister. We're partners. She does design, I do development, and together we have this company that does web design and development and digital marketing. We've been in business for 13 years together, and we still communicate and talk to each other. So that's cool. Family businesses don't always go that way.
Yeah.
And we've been doing WordPress sites since about 2006.
Very cool. Nice. So you run an agency with your sister. How did that come about? I know a lot of people in the WordPress space who run an agency with either their partner. I know even some that run with it is a family business. It's a parent-child business. But I don't know if I've heard one that's two sisters running an agency. How'd that come about?
Well, back before we started, my sister was doing graphic design for a big book publishing company, and I had quit teaching to stay home with my kids, and she had a running blog, and she liked to put these beautiful mastheads that she created on her blog and then on all her running friends' blogs, but she didn't know how. She knew how to make the masthead. She didn't know how to put through the HTML to put it in, so I started putting them in for her. And then I made a website. I was asked to make a website for my hairdresser. And so I asked her to help me do the design, and I built it. And one thing led to another.
Let's even dive into that a little more. What's it like running an agency with your sister? Are you too close?
I think we're a lot closer now than we would have been had we not done this together, because we have to talk to each other every day. And especially, when we started, we were just doing it part-time. It was a side hustle. And, I was staying home with little babies, and she had a day job. And as it's evolved into, a full-time career for both of us with, teams that we employ as well, we have to spend a lot more time together. So definitely there's that aspect. And then the other aspect is that you can't really break up with your sister. So, if you're working with your friend or a colleague and things don't go bad, you guys can sever ties. Well, we're sisters forever. So we're kind of stuck together. So even though there are times that we may not get along, we still have to figure out how to make it work. And there may be times that we're not speaking to each other because, we're unhappy with what the other person is doing. But in the end, I think that we're a lot closer because of it.
Yeah, I can see that. It's not easy running a business with your sister because for that fact, because it's, you can disagree on things, but you can't never disagree that much that you really get into a bad spot, for the business's sake. But it's also an advantage because that's also, that same thing, honestly, maybe a good thing. You kind of force yourself into a spot. You say, okay, this is a person I got to work with. And, a lot of times it's good that it's your sister, especially if it's someone you get along with. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
and you can be a lot more honest with your sister. You can things that you might filter out for your, average colleague or coworker. You can, So my sister and I know, are probably a lot more honest, brutally honest at times with each other than we would be with other people, which can have benefits and drawbacks.
Yeah. Did you ever have a time that you really had to bring something, honest to the table that maybe wasn't the best news or was kind of hard to talk about?
The biggest disagreements we get in is when she does a design and then I have to try and build it. And so then I'll be unhappy about something she did. She'll design something that I don't know how to do and I have to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, right on. Or it's like, this is a good design, but like it's not that functional. Like we're focusing on speed here. Like this is going to slow down the side, stuff like that. I'm sure there's always back and forth like that. That I can think of a few times that's happened with me and my team, or through our team as well.
Yeah. I mean, and there's always, I think, with any duo, like if you're not a unicorn doing both the design and the development, there's learning curve on both sides. Like, she doesn't know what I have to do to make the site work. And, I don't know how to make things look pretty. So it's quite a different world that we're in, even though we're working in the same business.
Yeah, cool. I actually don't really know how to do either of those that well. I'm more like kind of on the marketing and growth side of things and business development side. Design, I feel like I have like good taste, but I couldn't design something, and like building something, forget about it. Like I know some basic HTML and CSS, but don't ask me to like dive into PHP or JavaScript or anything like that. You mentioned when you were talking about working with your sister that you were at home with kiddos while you were working with the business, maybe while you were like starting and growing the agency. I'm not sure if you've heard my news, but my wife and I are expecting our first baby boy in January. So I'm very interested to talk with people who like have built agencies and like work in this kind of space, with a kid or kids at home. What was that experience like building and trying to grow and do agency life when you have a second and potentially third and fourth jobs, with kids at home?
Yeah. Well, congratulations, first off.
Thank you. Yeah.
Having kids is great. Mine are teenagers now, so life's a little bit different.
Okay.
But when we originally, our very first website that we did was in 2006, and my daughter was 1 year old. My son was 3. So, it was very part-time. It was, really a side hustle, something I could do. When you're staying at home and I gave up my career, I was a teacher, to be at home, you lose your identity. Like my identity was that of a teacher, and I still have that. I still feel like a teacher inside, even though I haven't taught in 15 years, 16 years almost. And you lose that, and then you're all absorbed in being with this little person and making sure they're not dying, that I needed something that was mine, that was just something for me. And that was what this was. And it wasn't enough to take me away from my children, but it was something that I had that just belonged to me. And so that was really important at that time. And then it grew slowly, but surely over the next 13 years.
Cool. What did you teach?
I taught computers.
Oh, nice. Very cool. I was a high school math teacher for a couple of years after I graduated from undergrad. So I always like talking with fellow teachers. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you always have that teacher inside of you, even if I taught for 5 years and I've done this for 13 years, but I still feel like a teacher at heart.
Yeah, I totally hear that. I think it's one of the reasons I actually launched WPMRR in the first place. The core of the site is a membership site and a video course. So I was very kind of excited after not teaching for a long time to get a little bit back in education, even though I'm not teaching the kids. I really enjoyed teaching. I do get to teach a few people in the WordPress space how to do some MRR focused work. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so and your kids are teenagers now. So how have things changed since they were little, running your agency when they were little, to now that they're a little older and maybe a little bit more independent? Have things changed in terms of like how you run your business?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when they were little, I was, working evenings and weekends, and, I would have a babysitter come maybe for 2 or 3 hours a couple of times a week. So it really was very, very part-time. I was lucky if I got 15 hours in a week. So it was, just a little extra cash on the side. But as they got older, especially once they both got in school full-time, I was able to do, take on more, even though it was still, in between those school hours that I really wanted to focus. And at the time, I really didn't want to work full-time even after they got in school. I wanted to be available to go on field trips and to, be the room mom and to be there after school and all of that business of being their mother. But now that they're in high school, even when they come home, they're, running off to their caves or texting their friends or going to this and that activity. So I have a lot more free time. And so I do end up working a lot more. And it's just naturally grown. As they've grown up, my business has grown up too.
That's a very good way to put it. Yeah, I think that's a little of the part that intimidates me is like the first few years as opposed to like, when they're off at school and have activities and stuff, I'll have more time to do work. And I feel like the first 3 years, it's going to be it may not even be that I don't have time to, it's just that my time is like not chosen. Like it's hard to like say, okay, I'm gonna take these 3 hours. Like, oh, the baby needs to eat. The baby needs to, is crying. Well, I needed to go do all this stuff. And so, and the thing is, like, I like working. Like, I like working on my business. I enjoy interacting with my team. I like all of that. So it's not because I feel like I just like have to put whatever 60 hours a week in. It's like I like to do this work, and it's going to be a strange transition moving from being able to sit around and work on stuff all day if I want to okay, I really got to put this to the side. Yeah. Any advice for me as kind of a new parent coming on how to, I don't know, manage my time or, continue doing this thing I love while also having this second thing that I love?
I don't know if I have great advice since I didn't do it full time when my kids were babies. Just getting through those first 2 weeks is, a success. When we left the hospital and the doctor comes in and they're like, you need to schedule an appointment with your pediatrician in 2 weeks. And my husband looked at me and said, they're going to leave us alone with this thing for 2 weeks. Yeah. So, and I didn't have a job at the time when they were babies and newborns. So I don't know what that was like. I mean, they were little, but so I don't have a lot of advice on that. Get help if you need it. Are you going to be by yourself at home?
We will be by ourselves at home, but we've got a good amount of support. My parents are right up in Bethesda. My sister lives here in DC. Sterling's parents are also, they plan to come and visit and help and support. So we've got good support systems in place, which takes a little bit of stress off our shoulders for sure.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is don't feel guilty hiring a sitter for a few hours if you need to get stuff done.
Cool. Good advice. I think usually the advice of asking for help is a good advice, and not feeling like you're on an island, like you have to do everything you're on your own. Turns out that advice works for having a baby and for running your business, and maybe it runs across multiple areas of your life. Yeah.
And those years go by so fast, so fast.
Yeah.
I feel like mine were babies yesterday.
And I feel like everyone says that, but every day I feel like that's more true. Like, I feel like I've never had life move faster or feel like it's moving faster since like we found out that we were having a baby. Like even now time is speeding up and starting to go faster. Even just like having that knowledge, it's like these 9 or 10 months are just like zooming by. I feel like just yesterday we found out, and now it's like, well, we're halfway through. We just found that out like yesterday. Little baby boy Howard is half baked right now, so that's pretty crazy.
Well, they say the days are long and the years are short.
Okay. Ooh, I like that one as well. Awesome. Okay. So agency work you do with your sister. It is sumydesigns.com, SUMY designs.com. Go and check it out. I'm on the site right now. It's a great looking site. I love the picture of you. And I guess this is you and your sister right on the homepage, right?
Yes.
Yes. So cool. I actually really like this landing page. It makes me like feel like I would really want to work with you too. Like, oh, look at these two sisters. Like, who wouldn't want to work with you doing design and development and stuff? So, go and check out the site. If not to work with them, just as like a general, like, if you want to see a cool looking site,
we're working
agency site
on a remodel.
Nice. Oh, us too. We're right now in the rebrand phase. So, this is kind of an announcement. We haven't like shared this too much with people, but listeners on the podcast, you heard it here first. We're going through rebrand right now. So we're new logo, new colors, new fonts, new stuff. And then we're going to be working on a new site later this year. Maybe we could talk about that. Are you, what's your, like, what point of the process are you in?
We are trying to, my sister and I also often have very different ideas about what we like. So we really have to sometimes it takes us a lot of time to agree on the things we want. And then I also am very focused on content, SEO, and user experience. And so those are things that we have to merge in with how it looks and work together to come up with something we agree on. So the hardest part for us is coming up with a design that she loves, but that I also like and think will be a good functional website and has all the content and SEO things that I think we need.
Yeah, man, that's really tough. I feel like I'm already starting to think about like how are we going to do that? But yeah, I'm a very functional thinker, and a lot of our business is brought through SEO, through people finding us on Google, through all that kind of stuff. And user experience can help for sure with conversion and all that. But the functional part is the piece I'm focused on, and the place I need help is like I need a designer to come in and just like create something that is really good looking in that sense, but my primary is the functional. So yeah, it sounds like you two kind of approach it from different sides, but you kind of, my thought is usually if you have two people who think differently, but of course there's like, work respectfully together, you can get this kind of 1 + 1 = 3 effect. You have your two brains separate, you can create something better together, even if it's kind of a little bit of friction creates fire situation. You want that
No,
fire.
I totally agree. I mean, our current site is a result of that. There was a lot of fighting about the site before it actually got launched. And so this version went out in 2016, maybe. So it's ready for an update.
Yeah. Every few years, usually take a little look and say, oh, do we need something new? Yeah, we've kind of just outgrown our current site a little bit. Like the site we built now was built 3 or so years ago. Our business has changed so much in 3 years. Honestly, just like the UI of the whole site is kind of off because it's just like we built on top of things. And now it's like, well, let's stop building on top of a foundation that's not solid for us, and let's get a new foundation that really works for our current, not only our current brand, but like our current services, like the things we do, what we want to show people. So yeah, lots going on there. Cool. All right. SumyDesigns.com, agency world for Amy, but Amy also has this other world where she does something else. So what's your other big area of focus in the WordPress space?
Well, I am 1/3 of the Women in WP podcast, a new podcast focusing on women in the WordPress space that we started. I think our first episode was in February. And we just wanted a place where women could come and talk about all the great stuff they're doing that was hosted by women. And, it's for anybody. So even if you're a guy, you're allowed to listen. And I think we do have some guy listeners.
Okay, I can plug it into my podcast player. Is that okay? Okay, sweet.
Yes, you're allowed. So, but that's our goal was just, I had this idea. It was before WordCamp US last year. And I was, I'm within driving distance of Nashville and driving distance of St. Louis. So I was plugging in podcasts to listen to. And I just kind of noticed, I'm like, all these podcasts are dudes. I'm like, where are all the women? And because I know there are so many women in the WordPress community, why aren't they showing up more in these podcasts? And so I just kind of threw it out there as a tweet. Is anybody, if we had this podcast, would anybody listen? Thinking nobody would respond, and then I could drop the idea and go about my life. And that's not what happened. So I had a big response and hooked up with Tracy Apps and Angela Bowman, who had already had this idea years before. I just reinvented the idea. And so we got together and made it a thing.
Very, very cool. I feel like that's often how ideas come to fruition. Sometimes a lot of people often have similar ideas of things to do or businesses to start, but it's sometimes it just needs a little kick in the butt to kind of get started. So cool. And then Women in WP was born. Is it purely a podcast, or is there another aspect of it, or is it just podcast?
It's just a podcast. So, we just we release one every 2 weeks. And I mean, we do have the video, so you can watch the video or listen. It's either way. But yeah, every 2 weeks, there's a new episode that comes out with a different woman that is somehow in the WordPress world. And we've talked to people all over the world, Australia and Greece and South America. So we're kind of hitting everywhere. And Nigeria was one of our most popular episodes.
Very cool. And what was that episode about?
We interviewed Mary Job. So if you're not familiar with her, go find her on Twitter. And she's a big advocate for WordPress in Nigeria and girls in tech. And she was a delight to speak with.
Very cool. Awesome. Women in the Women in WP podcast was one I remember seeing when it was started and when it came out, and thinking, man, this is a great idea. We added it to we have a blog post of like all the WordPress podcasts that people can listen to. And we added you guys very soon after it was started. So we have in our list of top podcasts to listen to. So yeah, cool. And it looks like you guys I'm on the site right now. You guys, listen to my language. You folks over at Women in WP, you women over at Women in WP, you release podcast episodes, but you also release video. I can see like YouTube clips here. Was that something you've done since the beginning? Or was it kind of a something you were thinking, we want to do audio, we want to do video too?
We wanted to do it all. I think we really like to be able to see the dynamic between everybody and the way everybody talks and communicates. So we decided to do that. Tracy does all the editing and she's amazing. So she has cut out my dog barking and cut out, if she could make me sound a little less awkward, that'd be great. My goal through the whole podcast has been, this is going to be the episode where I'm less awkward. And then the next one, I'll forget to say my name. So I'm not less awkward, but it's been a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, cool. I mean, man, I remember when we started this podcast and feeling very awkward talking for the point of other people listening to it. And I look back at the old episodes and they're not bad, but they're definitely not great. And so I think whenever a podcast starts, it's totally fine for the first 10, 20 episodes. It's going to be a little awkward. It's going to be a little funny. If it's, there's some podcasts out there that are like highly polished, highly produced. That's maybe not our podcasts, may not be that level of production, right? So ours are a little bit more informal. And the important part there is to start and get rolling. And I found that a lot of people like the little awkward parts. They like the human at times of the podcast where we, screw up or something. So I think it's the awkwardness is okay.
Will this air before WordCamp US?
Yes. What is today? Today is the end of August today. And it's WordCamp US is in 2 months. It's Halloween. So end of October. So yes, it will be.
We are, Angela and Tracy and I will all be at WordCamp US, and we are planning to record. So if anybody listening to this wants to get in on that recording, if they watch the episode that Tracy did from WordCamp Europe, just kind of quick interviews with women and what they're doing in WordPress, just make sure to let us know. Then we will look for you. We don't have a time or a place where we're going to be recording yet. We're still figuring that out, but that is episode 20 will be recorded at WordCamp US.
Very cool. If people want to go to womeninwp.com/upcoming-shows, or you can just go to womeninwp.com and there's an upcoming guests button in the top menu. You can submit if you would like to be on the show, maybe a little information about yourself. And if you wanted to join at WordCamp US, that would be really cool. I did some live podcast recording for this podcast at Beach Press earlier this year, and that was awesome. It was so cool doing like in real life podcast recording. It has such a different sound and it's almost like a more real sound, for lack of a better word. But you can really like hear the microphone being passed back and forth. And I really like listening to those episodes because it's just, it truly is an in real life interview, which just has a different feel. So I think that's a really cool idea. Are you guys thinking about, man, this is a good podcast, so I can make sure that my language is a little bit more appropriate.
We're all learning
and accessible.
I do it too, and I am a woman, and I do it too. So it's ingrained.
For sure. Is this podcast recording session? Are you thinking about doing a few interview style episodes in a row, or is it going to be more of kind of a group recording thing?
That remains to be seen. So
nice.
For WordCamp Europe, Tracy was the only one that could go. And so she just found a spot and set up. And as people came over, she interviewed them, and then it wasn't live. So she recorded like Saturday, and we had it on for that Monday. So it was very quick as these things go. And, maybe it'll be that way, but since we're all three together, I just don't know. We've never done live before. So that's a whole area. Maybe you can come and record it live for us.
Yeah. I mean, the first time I recorded live, I bought the microphone. It actually may be the same microphone you're using. I can't remember what it's called, but I think that looks like it's
that's the same one. Yeah.
Audio Technica ATR 2100 USB. It's a cool microphone. It's very mobile. You just plug it into my computer and it sounds great. So, but the first time we recorded live, I just bought that. I literally bought that microphone and threw it in my bag and hadn't tested it. I was like, I guess we'll do recordings. And it just worked out. So even with minimal setup, I can't remember what podcast it was, but someone was doing live podcast recording at WordCamp Europe this year and had like the full setup like on a table. And it was like, whoa, that's awesome. But it was also like, that's like a lot of equipment and an extra bag to pack. And for me, like I'm much more like I almost travel with just a backpack. Like at WordCamp this US this year, I'll just bring a backpack and have all my stuff. So
the
I'm very
benefit for me is that I'm in driving distance. So I can, pack whatever I want since it's a 5-hour drive. There's no point in flying.
Okay.
So I can pack whatever I want, at least for the next 2 years.
Nice. So, okay, this is great for you. I feel like every year the new WordCamp US location, every 2 years, new locations announced. And then, maybe like a few people in the WordPress space are like, yes, like it's a local WordCamp for me now. So I guess you're, pretty local. Where within 5 hours driving are you?
Oh, I'm in Indiana in West Lafayette. So like between Indianapolis and Chicago. So I hate driving and I hate road trips. I would much rather just hop on a plane and fly somewhere. So I was really hoping for Phoenix or, LA or Boston or somewhere like that. Because the last 2 years in Nashville, I'm also driving distance. So, it's like I don't get to fly anywhere for these anymore.
Yeah, it's the opposite for you, I guess. Some people are excited that it's more of a close WordCamp. But yeah, I'm with you on, like, I'll drive for like 3 hours, like 4 hours, no problem. Even 5 hours, like whatever. But I'd probably rather fly than drive 5 hours. So I'm with you on that. I feel you.
Yeah. Well, I'm an hour from an airport. So if it's less than 8 hours, there's literally no reason for me not to drive. By the time you drive to the airport, go through security, that whole thing. And then, Indianapolis goes nowhere nonstop, almost nowhere nonstop. So then you have to have a layover and it's just not worth it.
Yeah, I hear you. And I can see you're wearing a WordCamp US tee from Nashville. So you've been to WordCamps before, or at least the WordCamp US, right?
I've been to every WordCamp US. I have not missed one.
Everyone, wow.
And I was a volunteer last year. But my very first WordCamp was Las Vegas, 2013.
Wow.
And I think
cool.
That's the one that kind of blew the roof off of everything because I had never done that before.
Yeah, I feel like most people remember their first WordCamps. They're like, oh, like I can do a job and like be part of this community. That's awesome. And I can do that like professionally. Okay, that's cool. I'll do this for the next 10 years. That sounds good.
Well, I just didn't even know that this was a thing that existed. And I have, some friends and one of them works in tech in a different capacity. And he was always going to these conferences. And I'm like, I want to go to a conference because, I've been working by myself in my house for years, and it's very isolating. I didn't really know anybody else. I didn't know about the WordPress community. I knew none of that. And so I just typed in WordPress conference and Las Vegas popped up. And I love Las Vegas in probably an unhealthy way. And so I'm like, this is a great opportunity for work to pay for me to go to Vegas. And then, but the things I came back with, I think you never get as much out of another WordCamp as you do out of your first one. And the things I came back with really changed the trajectory of our business. I don't think we'd be where we were today if it wasn't for that WordCamp.
Nice. What do you think the things from that? Because I think there are a lot of people listening who may not have been to a WordCamp before. And Christy and I talk about WordCamps all the time. So hopefully people are listening, like understand the value and power of WordCamps. But I mean, I would love to hear a little bit about your first experience at a WordCamp and what were those things that you brought back that you were like, man, like my business is different now, or we're now moving in a different direction because these things happened to me at WordCamp Las Vegas.
There were so many really great speakers, really great speakers. And I don't know if it was just great because it was my first time seeing these speakers or, now, you see them all on the circuit, you see them all over, but it was my first time seeing any of them. I went in, huge imposter syndrome. I didn't want to talk to anybody. It was my sister and I, and then another person that was part of our team. And so we just kind of stuck to ourselves, but we went and we really listened. And there were a number of things that we took away. One of them was blogging for business. And at the time, this was 2013, and they gave some stats on blogging. And we had a blog. So this was like December, and we hadn't updated our blog since April. And so we decided just from this one session, we said, let's do an experiment where we blog every day for a month. And so we just alternated days and we blogged every day for a month, and the traffic to our site jumped so significantly. It was, I think, just a turning point to see how big of a difference that blogging made for us, that we ended up doing it every day for 6 months. And then we cut down to 4 days a week for several years. And now I I've switched to where I do one very long post every week rather than the shorter ones because, the dynamic of what Google's looking for in blog posts has changed. And so I've had to adjust with it. But, before that, if you'd asked me how people knew about us, I would have said referral. And now I would say at least half come just through Google search.
Yeah, nice. After you drive traffic to your website, what's the next step for you post that? Are you kind of like collecting email addresses? Are you pointing towards services pages? What does that look like?
You can sign up for a blog post. I write the blog, and my existing clients really like it because I write about SEO and I write about just different things that they may not know about. It's not, and it does drive traffic and it does help our overall SEO, but it's not something I'm not driving people to sign up for that. Really, I'm driving them to request a quote for services. And that's really, every place you go, there's, are you ready to get started? Click here. So we're really trying to push people into requesting a quote or scheduling an appointment to talk about what they need.
Nice. Very cool. I'm on the blog now and I was just kind of looking through some articles and I see some cool piece of content like the truth about outbound links for SEO. Like that's a really cool topic that if you're doing SEO services, especially, and even for like clients you're already working with, like they want to see that you're an expert in those areas and continuing to show your value, not just in like the direct help you provide them, but like, I know this stuff enough that I'm blogging about it and telling other people how to do it too. So,
for sure.
And it's like really data driven. Like I'm seeing like a screenshot with all sorts of like external follow links and numbers. And like, that's what I like, that data driven stuff. So yeah, very cool. All right. Well, this has been a pleasure, Amy. I really appreciate you coming on. I usually like to end with you giving people the ability to find you online wherever you are, maybe social media profiles or websites, all that jazz.
All right. Well, I would first start with the womeninwp.com and follow us on all social medias because the podcast is great. Angela and Tracy are great. So there's that. Me personally, you can find me on Twitter. My username is Amy Masson. I take no responsibility for what you read there, so enter at your own risk. And then, the business is Sumy Designs, and we're sumydesigns.com, and we're also on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and everywhere else.
Nice. I just followed you on Twitter, so I will be there in the shadows, making sure I see all of your tweets. The Women in WP podcast, I am already a subscriber, so I can't subscribe here live on our show, but this is a podcast too, so we have a lot of listeners. If Women in WP podcast sounds like something that would pique your interest, I've listened to multiple episodes, a great show, so I definitely recommend people go check out the show. And yeah, the last thing we always do on this show, which maybe we can like do it for both our shows because we both would like some more 5-star iTunes reviews. So I usually ask our guests to ask our listeners for a 5-star review for our show, but you can ask for both our shows. Why not?
Oh, absolutely. I would say if you like what you listened to today, then you would like to give a review for both of us on either podcast to let everybody else know that you've enjoyed it too.
Yes, thank you. 5-star reviews or any reviews. They help us get found in the iTunes store. There are a lot of new people coming into the WordPress space who want to listen to podcasts as one of their mediums of learning. And if they're searching WordPress, it'd be nice if they could find WPMRR WordPress podcast and the Women in WP podcast. So that would be great if people could take a couple minutes to go leave a review. WPMRR.com/iTunes redirects you right there. So check that out if you're on your computer right now. If you're a new listener to the WPMRR podcast, feel free to go back to some old episodes and do some binging. We've got dozens of episodes. Go back through the archives, find some episodes on topics that you're having challenges with right now. We talked about all sorts of topics. I'm sure you can find something that's a challenge with you right now. Women in WP podcast has a ton of great interviews with amazing women in the WordPress space. You will learn a ton from these women. So go listen to any episodes that where the title piques your interest there. If you have questions for our show, email them in, yo@wpmrr.com. We just recorded a really good Q&A episode yesterday. Christy and I, we recorded a Q&A episode, which was awesome. It was a ton of fun and great to just answer listener questions directly. So yeah, if you have questions, shoot them into us. I'll shoot you a reply. We'll answer them on the show. It'll be dope. WPMRR.com if you are an agency or a freelancer and you want to influx your business with a little bit more monthly recurring revenue. a little less roller coaster revenue, a little more comfortable and scalable business model, sell some care plans. We teach the video course there. WP Buff's open sourced, and right now 75% off. So if you want to grab your, what do I want to say, lifetime membership, I guess. It's a one-time payment. So get the course, make a payment, it's all good. So check that out if that's something that piques your interest. That's all for this week. We will be back next Tuesday with another episode. Amy, thanks again for hopping on. It's been real.
Thanks for having me.